Nobody saw it coming, nobody. When the stadium lights dimmed for that opening ceremony years ago, nobody knew the entire future of baseball was about to be rewritten in real time. But history has a way of sneaking up on people, especially when the whole world is watching without realizing it. It began with a quiet tension in the air, the kind you feel before a storm. Fans didn't just show up, they arrived like armies of hope, carrying flags, chants, and the weight of nations on their shoulders. Baseball had always been a game, a sport, a tradition. But on that night, it became something else entirely. It became a heartbeat shared by millions. And then, the first pitch was thrown. Not just across home plate, but across borders, across languages, across continents. It was as if the ball itself carried a message: this game belongs to all of us. People talk about baseball moments as if they're isolated snapshots, walk-off homers, perfect games, legendary bat flips. But the World Baseball Classic created something different: global chapters, woven together like the threads of a giant tapestry. Every inning became a story. Every story became a memory. And every memory became a reason the sport would never be the same again. There were games where the pressure was so thick the world felt like it stopped spinning. Crowds didn't just cheer, they roared, like nations crying out in one voice. Players didn't represent teams anymore, they represented dreams. And some of those dreams came from places that had never stood on a baseball stage before. The WBC turned underdogs into giants. It turned names few had heard into legends no one would ever forget. It turned rivalries into sagas, and friendships into symbols of unity. And then there were moments that shook the earth. Like when a pitcher from a tiny baseball country struck out a superstar the world assumed was invincible. Gasps didn't just echo, they exploded across social media, televisions, cafes, bars, living rooms. Suddenly, the world realized, this tournament wasn't scripted by MLB. It was written by the world. Crowds witnessed players crying, not because they lost, but because they carried their entire homeland on their jerseys. People who had never watched baseball before suddenly cared more than lifelong fans. Flags waved like oceans. Anthems felt heavier. Every out, every hit, every stolen base meant something deeper. One moment the stadium was silent enough to hear a glove snap. The next moment it was loud enough to shake camera lenses. The WBC taught us that baseball could be chaotic and poetic in the same breath. It took the slow, beautiful rhythm of the sport and electrified it with urgency, urgent emotion, urgent passion, urgent destiny. Even MLB players admitted it. The WBC felt bigger than the World Series. Not because of trophies, but because of identity. Pride. Belonging. You saw pitchers screaming to the sky after strikeouts as if they had just liberated a nation. You saw hitters point to the name on their chest, not their back. You saw crowds dance, cry, sing, and unite like only sports can make them. It wasn't just a tournament. It was a declaration. Baseball wasn't America's pastime anymore. It was the world's game. Kids in places without baseball fields started swinging sticks wrapped in tape, inspired by heroes who looked like them, sounded like them, represented them. Governments invested in stadiums. Federations popped up. Youth leagues filled with kids who never dreamed baseball could take them anywhere, until the WBC showed them it could take them everywhere. The tournament revived the sport in countries where baseball had faded. It created new powerhouses and resurrected old ones. It sparked rivalries that made every next edition feel like a sequel in a blockbuster franchise. And then there was the moment, that moment, when two teammates, two superstars, two icons of the same MLB team stood facing each other for the first time as enemies. The world held its breath. Teammates became rivals. Friends became obstacles. The final pitch of that duel wasn't just a strike. It was a symbol, a snapshot of what the WBC meant. Even the greatest players in the world were willing to fight for the flag stitched across their heart. That moment alone changed baseball forever. It was replayed millions of times, talked about for years, etched into history before the crowd's roar even faded. The WBC didn't just bring nations together, it pushed players to their limits, inspiring performances they might never repeat anywhere else. Fans could feel it. This wasn't just competition. This was purpose. Something shifted after that. MLB front offices noticed. Scouts expanded their maps. Teams began investing heavily in international talent. The sport grew wider, deeper, richer. Every WBC became a pipeline for future stars, and a reminder that greatness can come from anywhere. And with each new edition, the world returned. Bigger crowds, louder chants, more upsets, more miracles. The WBC gave baseball something it desperately needed: global stakes. The kind of stakes that turn casual viewers into lifelong fans. The kind of stakes that make a sport immortal. It fused cultures, united continents, and brought fire back into ballparks in ways nobody had seen in generations. Players said the noise shook their bones. Fans said the energy felt spiritual. Commentators said they'd never witnessed anything like it. Year by year, tournament by tournament, moment by moment, the WBC reshaped the identity of baseball until there was no going back. And now, looking back, it's almost impossible to imagine the sport without it. Impossible to imagine a world where baseball wasn't global, emotional, explosive, and deeply human. Impossible to imagine all those unforgettable nights never happening. The World Baseball Classic didn't just change baseball. It saved it. It expanded it. It electrified it. It reminded the world why sports matter, not because of the score, but because of the soul. And when you look at the players today, when you see the stadiums, the flags, the crowds, the tears, when you hear the echoes of those unforgettable cheers, you realize one truth: baseball was never meant to belong to one country. It was meant to belong to all of us. And the WBC made sure it finally does. That's how the World Baseball Classic changed baseball, forever.